Welcome back everyone, Jake here. In this video, we're going to ask the serious question, is Russia currently winning this war? Because on my channel, in the comments section, especially these last 2 weeks, more and more Russian trolls have been saying this, that Russia is winning, wake up. As of now, Russia can use the oldest tanks it wants. They are winning and the Ukrainian defense is falling apart. Fighting with so many countries in NATO, with big boss USA, Russia is still winning. Amazing. So let me first just show you my YouTube analytics. These are some of my recent videos. This one got 114,000 views, and the thumbs up to thumbs down ratio, 6,233 thumbs up, only 92 thumbs down. So the percentage of people out there who support Russia or think Russia is winning, at least in the English-speaking world, it's very low, it's very small. The vast majority of people are supporting the Ukrainian cause and think that Russia is the aggressor, Russia is at fault in this conflict. And these Russian trolls saying that Russia is currently winning, these are the exact same people 3 months ago leaving comments that this 40-mile convoy heading for Kyiv was the end of the war and that Kyiv was going to fall in a matter of days and Russia was unstoppable. So let's actually look at the war map from 2 months ago. This is the BBC map from March 29th, and this was 3 months ago a completely different war. Vladimir Putin and Russia was trying to take the entire country. We saw their war map linked by Yushchenko, and they were trying to take Kyiv, they were trying to take Kharkiv, they were trying to take Odessa, maybe even Belarus military forces was supposed to come down and take Lviv. The goal 3 months ago was to take the entire country, and Russia lost that war. They gave up on it about a month and a half ago, and they pulled all of their forces out of the north. They then swung them around to exclusively focus just on the Donbass. So Russia's military objective currently, and it's pretty limited, they just want to gain control of the Donbass region plus these two oblasts down here so that they can have a land bridge from mainland Russia to Crimea. So this is once again a completely different war. Is Russia currently winning this war? Let's talk about that. First of all, as far as control of the Donbass, you could argue that they're in possession now of 95% of the Luhansk region and about 50% of the Donetsk Oblast. And to assess whether or not taking territory on the ground is how you win the war, let's look to some historical examples for fun. So here is the Korean War. This is the Korean Peninsula. As of September 1950, a couple months prior, North Korea invaded from the north into the south, and they pushed the South Korean forces all the way to the port city of Busan. Now I want to ask the serious question, is North Korea winning this war? Obviously not, because this is a historical example. United States and its allies got involved in the conflict, and they pushed the North Korean forces all the way back to the Chinese border. So once again, I'll ask the question, is the Allied forces, the South Korean forces, winning this war? Sure enough, nope, because China got involved, and this then became a bloody, protracted conflict for 2 years in which millions of people died, and at the end of the war, neither side gained or lost really any significant amount of territory. Let's now look at another historical example. This is Nazi Germany in October of 1942. And Germany has taken Kyiv, they've taken Kharkiv, they've taken Belgorod and Rostov, and they're about to take Stalingrad. So I'm going to ask you the serious question, is Germany winning this war? And just because you can take territory, you can take cities, doesn't mean you're going to win the war. Here's another historical example that's probably the best of all, and this is the French occupation of Moscow. Between September and October of 1812, Napoleon Bonaparte marched his French army into Russia and actually took Russia's capital. He won every battle he fought, and he took thousands of square kilometers worth of territory. So I'll ask the serious question, is France winning this war? And obviously not. This was a complete disaster for Napoleon Bonaparte. Here's a famous diagram based on Charles Minard's graph, where he shows that when Napoleon left Lithuania, he left with an army of about 422,000 soldiers. He then won every battle he fought, taking lots of territory, and eventually took the Russian capital of Moscow. By this time, he only had about 100,000 soldiers. The Russians basically burned down the city and took all the food and retreated into the countryside as winter was approaching. Napoleon realized his colossal mistake and started marching his forces back to Lithuania. And with an army set out with 422,000, only 10,000 soldiers returned. So let's look to history and think, how is it possible that you can win every battle and take lots of territory and still lose the war? And the reason why is to have a successful military campaign, you really need two things. The first one is the support of the local people. If you are viewed as a liberator and you can get their collaboration and cooperation, that's going to greatly increase your chance of succeeding in taking or occupying a foreign territory. Usually in history, this doesn't happen. People don't like being invaded by people who look different, culturally, speak, language, religion, whatever. So generally, local people don't like foreign militaries bombing their schools, bombing their hospitals, bombing their churches. They resist. The second thing is you need the support of your people back home. And ultimately, the French people got so sick of Napoleon and all of his wars that Napoleon lost the support of the French people. And when you're a military on foreign soil and you're no longer getting the support of the people back home, that ultimately is going to doom your military campaign. So here we are in the year 2022, and Russia has invaded a sovereign nation. They're on enemy soil. Do they have the support of the local people? And, maybe outside of the city of Donetsk and Luhansk, they certainly don't. Does the Russian military have the support of the people back home? Potentially, if you look at, public opinion polls, as of right now, they do. But will Russia continue to have the support of their people back home for this war 6 months from now, a year from now? Ukraine's not going anywhere. This is their country. So let's talk about the war map and what's currently happening more in detail than I normally do. And here's a website called militaryland.net, and they put out some pretty detailed maps of what exactly is going on. And everyone the last couple weeks has been focusing on the city of Severodonetsk. This is the new Mariupol, basically. And Ukrainian forces are surrounded on three sides as Russia's entire military, all they want is this one town. This is their primary objective for basically propaganda purposes. And I can explain to you why. Why this really isn't that impressive even when Russia eventually takes it. Here is the Luhansk Oblast. To say they control 95% of it, you're basically saying they controlled the city they always controlled and then all of the empty farmland in this oblast. There's only 2 cities of significant size, and the Ukrainians have been holding out, controlling this town for 3 months. For Russia, supposedly the world's second largest military, the fact that it's been 3 months and they still have not taken this town, it's kind of an embarrassment. However, when Russia inevitably does take this town, they're going to trumpet it as a huge military success. They've gained control of 100% of this oblast, liberating these oppressed ethnic Russians in the Donbass region. So while Russia is dedicating something ridiculous like 110 battalion tactical groups to take this one town that really doesn't have any strategic significance, the Ukrainians are seizing on this opportunity to focus on the other side of the war near Kherson. And you could argue that Kherson is a much more strategically valuable target. So in war, there's going to be give and take. It's okay to give up space for time or trade locations if it gives you an advantage. And I'll make the argument. Here's the city of Severodonetsk. Its original population was 106,000. There's only about 10,000 people who refused to leave remaining in the city, and Russia has damaged or destroyed 90% of this town. This town is ruins and rubble. It has no value economically or strategically once Russia takes it. However, Kherson hasn't been destroyed yet. Its population before the war broke out was about 289,000, so maybe 200,000 people are remaining. And the Kherson Oblast is 76% ethnically Ukrainian. So yes, there is a small Russian minority, but is that Russian minority even willing to cooperate or collaborate with their current Russian occupiers? So it makes sense that potentially Ukraine will cede territory and focus their own offensive objectives on a territory more strategically valuable, more economically valuable, and has a higher ethnic population willing to participate maybe in underground resistance, acts of civil disobedience, some kind of partisan movement. So this is where the Ukrainians are choosing to focus. This Dnieper River is a great natural boundary. If they can destroy all of these Russian forces on the north side of the river and push them to the other side, then they can shore up the defense of Mykolaiv and protect, once again, Odessa. Ukraine's supply lines coming from Poland and Romania are also shortest. So this is where they will experience the most success. And the city of Kherson is on the north side of this river. So if they're going to take it back, while Russia is distracted in the Donbass, this is their best opportunity. So let's now talk about, once again, is Russia winning? How can Russia win? And ultimately what I think Vladimir Putin's strategy currently is to take all the territory he thinks his military is capable of taking by this summer, and then go to the negotiating table and beg for peace from Western leaders. I don't think Vladimir Putin is going to take Zelensky or anything the Ukrainians say seriously. However, Russia has their allies in the West. Idiots like Henry Kissinger saying Ukraine should give up territory to Russia to reach a peace deal. Give up the Donbass, give up the Crimea forever, give up the Kherson Oblast. So Vladimir Putin knows that eventually his military is going to exhaust itself and they can't continue these attacks. They're barely, once again, struggling to take the second town after 3 months in the Luhansk Oblast. But Putin is going to take as much as he can and then go to his friendlies, I wouldn't call them allies, but people that are sympathetic to the Russian position, maybe Scholz in Germany or Macron in France, and tell them, get NATO off my back. Tell the United States, tell all the other Eastern European NATO countries that don't like us, stop supplying weapons to the Ukrainians, we'll agree to a ceasefire, let us keep all the territory we took, and then we promise we will never attack Ukraine again. Peace in our time. This is nonsense, and I don't think it's going to work, but it's Vladimir Putin's best hope at this point, because his military cannot keep sustaining these personnel and equipment losses similar to what they've been experiencing the last 3 months. And here are the indicators that show me that Russia cannot sustain a war of this intensity, 6 more months, a year from now, Moscow offered safe passage for Ukrainian food exports in exchange for easing of sanctions. Now, when you're at war with somebody, you don't let up on them and allow them to basically, you know, economically export what they need to survive unless you thought it was of greater value to you to have sanctions lifted. Russia really exposed itself by making this offer. It shows that the sanctions are not only crippling their economy, but also probably severely hindering their military. So many of these components and their drones and their planes and their equipment rely on microchips and cameras and processors from Western companies. They can't get any of these components or pieces anymore. Similarly, Vladimir Putin has fired several senior commanders in the Russian military for performing badly. You don't really do this if your side is winning. Russia has also signaled that they're going to allow 45-year-old men up to age 45 to start their military career and enlist or sign a contract. Once again, if you're winning, you don't really raise the age of a brand new contract soldier to the age of 45. Russia has also lost so many tanks, potentially several thousand armored vehicles, that they're pulling out of storage the T-62. These first went into commission in 1961, 60 years ago, not 50 years ago, 60 years ago, and they're just going to have to rely on outdated, older equipment to potentially limp across the finish line and achieve some kind of concession from Ukraine to win this war. Russia also has been using mercenaries, and there's a story of a 63-year-old pilot who was shot down in Ukraine. Once again, if your Air Force is doing well and you're winning, you're probably not going to put a 63-year-old man in the seat of one of your jets. Russia, in the meantime, is also facing a brain drain as hundreds of thousands of Russians are fleeing the country. The estimates and the numbers are hard to get, but it's close to probably 300,000 people who object to Vladimir Putin's regime and his war. They've left the country, gotten out however they can. Usually these people getting out are educated and they're younger. And those are the people that Russia really needs right now in order to win this war. The Biden administration potentially might be allowing some Russian scientists or Russian engineers into their country. Other countries, such as maybe the UK or France or Australia or Canada, could also let in these Russians that want to leave Vladimir Putin's regime. How many Russian generals have been killed so far in this conflict? And the number currently is at 12. Once again, this isn't something you lie about because it's easily disproven. So potentially this number is greater than 12. Russia has also lost, I think, greater than 40 colonels at this point. So Russia right now is engaged in a bite and hold strategy. And let's say they do it. It's a huge propaganda win. They gain control of the Luhansk Oblast. They're then going to focus on the Donetsk Oblast. The problem with their bite and hold strategy is if they only control 50% of this region, and the total square kilometers is 26,000, they still need to take about 13,000. Even if they're taking, 10 square kilometers a day, artillery advance. I mean, it's still going to take them months at the current rate they're going to get control of the entire Donbass region. So is Russia winning this war? And ultimately, I argue no. In any war, there's give and take, loss and gains in territory, but every war is a war of attrition in which you need the support of the local inhabitants and the support of your people at home. If Russia can't get both of these, they really don't have a chance of success in this conflict. Time is on the Ukrainian side as they bring more people into their military, get them more training, get more weapons and heavy equipment from the West, Russia can't sustain this war at its current rates of attrition much longer. You can ask the French, you can ask the Germans, you can ask the North Koreans. History shows that when you're the aggressor on enemy soil, time is not on your side. Okay, that's all for this update video. If you found it informative, give me a thumbs up. Really helps out with the channel. If you know something I don't, let me know in a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, take care, be safe.